Welcome back, everybody, or for the first time, to our new version of the podcast. We are talking triathlon. My name is Tim Ford. This is James Bale. Jimbo, it has been a few weeks. We are back with a new podcast, the same podcast. It's a little bit different, but it is the same. But how you going?
It's been a nice few weeks, though, hasn't it? A few weeks off, not having to think about when the podcast is coming up, what information I need on my sheet to talk to you about triathlon. But we are back, and it's exciting to be relaunched, mate. It really is, and here we are. But yeah, and I'm not going too bad. It's been 3 weeks between the last drink we had. Hip's still playing me up, but I'm on a rehab journey. But no, life is good. How's things with you?
Good, mate. It is good, and it has been nice. And again, it's funny that we've called this new show "Talking Triathlon" because I feel like that's still a big part of what I've been doing lately, whether I'm recording or not. I have been doing a lot of talking about triathlon. Plenty has happened, but I guess so. We're starting with a big guest this week. We thought that if we're going to start the new version of the show, we need to start with a bang. Friend of the show, Kristian Blummenfelt is joining us. We recorded the episode 2 weeks ago, I think, but it's a pretty evergreen episode, so nothing. It's like we talked about specific races or anything, which is good. So it'll be a good listen as it always is. But I thought what we were going to do this week, Jimbo, is we should probably talk a little bit about the housekeeping of the podcast because it is a new version of the show. It is, some things are changing, some things are not. But it probably would be good because we want to do things a bit different because we feel like there's, I guess, stuff that we did well, stuff that we probably faded off a little bit, but
everybody loves admin hour with Tim and James. So let's get into it.
So I'm going to talk through the ranking system of the PTO and changes it. But the idea moving forward, because again, it has been a big few weeks in the sport of triathlon. We aren't going to talk about that this week because of how we are planning on doing this show and this is a commitment from us, and it means that there's a bit of pressure on us because we are going to alternate weeks. Every second week is going to be an interview with a pro, and then every other week is going to be us talking about what has happened in the other couple of weeks. So it might mean if something red hot has happened, you might have to wait a little bit, but we might. Don't hold us to it hard and fast.
We can squeeze it in. If something really dramatic happens, we're not going to. No. This is an interview week.
Yeah, don't you dare bring it up. No,
we don't bring up.
You cannot bring it up. Andrew Messett resigns as Ironman and decides that they are moving all pro racing, and we interview I don't know, Andrew Starkowitz, and he's like, "Yes." Yeah, so I was like, "Sorry, we can't talk about that. This is the interview week." No, it won't be that. Won't be that strict.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good because we're going to have a bit more flexibility on it, aren't we? But we are going to have every other week we'll have a pro interview, and then in between those pro interview weeks we'll have the sort of news catch up for that 2 week period. Because triathlon is a very interesting and fast moving sport, but a 2 weekly news cycle is often enough unless you're right in the heat of the season.
I mean, I don't think our listeners will probably be too surprised to hear this, Jimbo, but there were some weeks where we struggled to record an hour-long podcast about what was happening in triathlon. So hopefully, the 2 week will give us a bit more of a bit more breathing room, and it also means that we're not just going to be reading to results and stuff like that. This podcast is going to be very much focused on the pro aspect of triathlon, but it isn't going to be going through every single result and every single race recap. It is going to be us picking out the things that we are most interested in to help make you guys. Let's be honest. The purpose of this podcast always was and always will be to help make it easier to follow the pro side of the sport, because we think, look, there are some great resources out there now. There's some great podcasts. There's some great websites that are doing a good job, and we just want to make it as easy as possible for the people who love the sport of triathlon to follow the sport as well, because we know a lot of the people who most of the people who are fans of triathlon are people who do the sport. And I think a lot of the people who do the sport don't really follow the pro racing that much. So we're hoping to make it easier to do that, I guess, is the sort of purpose of that. So yeah, 2 week catch up will mean there's plenty of good stuff to talk about, and not just go through, like I said, the PTO ranking update.
No, indeed. And look, we're going to have all the key results. We're going to have all the key dynamics and things that are happening in the sport. But, it's going to be topic based. We're going to draw the topics out of those results and find out what there is to speak about. And then we're going to put our opinions on it. And hopefully that gives you as an audience the chance to, either agree with us, disagree with us, or form your own rounded opinions based on what we've said that, might be completely contradictory to what we think. And that's, I think, the basis for a good conversation going forward if you're going to be talking about a sport like triathlon.
Exactly right. So what I thought we might do, mate, we might, without further ado, get into our drop the interview in for this week. We'll come back and we'll talk through we'll talk through a few more bits of housekeeping. We'll give our thoughts about the interview and stuff like that, and then we'll wrap it up for this week. How does that sound to you, James Bell?
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's go and have a chat with Kristian. He's a good old boy, isn't he?
Let's drop it in. We'll be back afterwards.
So our first interview is here, and we are lucky enough to be joined by the #1 PTO men's ranked Kristian Blummenfelt, winner of the 2022 70.3 World Championships, winner of the Ironman St. George World Championships, 2021 Olympic gold medalist, and currently the fastest man to have ever completed the iron distance at the sub-7, sub-8 event. Kristian, as the most requested and most frequent guest of the MX Days, it's only fitting that you kick off the new era with us at Talking Triathlon. How's things, mate?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's good to be back on the show. Yeah, it's nice to be, and hopefully, yeah, having a good chat together.
I would be
back. This is a new one.
I'd be overwhelmed by that introduction too, mate, to be honest, because it went for about 45 minutes. But I guess that's the problem when we talk to you. Now, the first thing I need to talk, we touched on it before we hit record, but you got it on your shirt there. It hurts more to lose. Has this been a painful year?
It's Makiro Hoga Tsurai in Japanese. Even have it in Japanese, but yeah, like the races in May hasn't been the greatest. It's been, but also like keeping in mind that like I feel I haven't had the greatest winter either. So yeah, not the best start, but now feeling like, of course, the races I've done is giving a lot of motivation, but also feeling now that the body is responding well, and hopefully I can turn this, yeah, the poor races into some victories very, very soon, and even hopefully already on Saturday with the Montreal Sprint Distance World Series. Never won a sprint distance before, so that's also something that's yeah, still like, yeah, trying to turn the poor races into some motivation.
What was it about the winter that was so difficult?
I think it was just from got too many times I got sick and sort of interrupting the training, and just wasn't able to put the job together, didn't respond well enough on the training. So that's also why I pulled out of Abu Dhabi. I was sick like 2 weeks before and felt I was way too far off from where I should have been, and did some great training in Sierra Nevada, but it was just like not enough weeks in between Abu Dhabi and the race that I did to be proper ready. So now have had 2 weeks up here now in Formö and feeling, I would say, sharper than the sharpest I've been this year. So hopefully it can turn out to be a good year.
The thing I'm curious about, because we've spoken about this offline, online, people have talked about it all over the place, but we've never seen people successfully go from the long distance back to the short distance, and now you're living it. How have you found that transition? Has it been what you expected? Has it been different to what you expected? Have you come across challenges you didn't expect to deal with? Like, how have you found living it?
I feel it's not too scary. Like if you just look at the results, like it looks poorly. Like I was 15th in Cagliari, 2 minutes off or behind Alex and Hayden, but still, I feel I'm closer than that. I feel like my performance overall was better than a 15th place. If you look like just from the physical side of it, like I was probably the one doing the most job work on the bike, because I was like pulling the second pack around for 40K, and then still had a solid run, like a minute slower than Alex and Hayden without feeling too sharp. So I feel like if I can put it together, I will still be up there and hopefully being able to, yeah, really be up in the mix together with Alex and Hayden in an Olympic distance. Unfortunately, none of them is racing in Montreal, so I'm not really going to get the answer on how we'll be compared to that. But yeah, I have Paris later on, and also Pontevedra, where I feel I should be, yeah, better than what I've been so far. And also, if you look at the results, and the results last year, I felt was even better than this year. So just the Ironman training hasn't been interrupting too much. It's more that I haven't had the best winter.
Does the entrance to this year concern you at all? Where is your focus right now? Like, if you're not winning right now, is it a worry, or are you just thinking about Paris next year and the build up to that?
Well, it's hard to think back to like 2020 and like I felt training then, and like the most important thing I think to win Paris next year is to have extremely good training the last maybe 6 to 8 months going into that race. So like that's going to be more critical than the level you are a year and a half out of the games. But of course, I want to be higher up in the ranking. I want to have a good position on the pontoon in Paris, and yeah, just getting that qualification done as early as possible in terms of getting my points. And but yeah, of course, I will prefer to win races, but also feel I know what I've been missing. So it's not like I feel that I've been going through a winter that's been still 2 minutes off the pace. I still feel I know which kind of session I have to do to be further up there.
You think, as you said, as we've said, we've seen, you've taken a very different approach over the last couple of years to, Hayden and Alex and that. Are you the same athlete that won in Tokyo? Can you win Tokyo the same way you won Paris, or do you have to approach the race a different way and almost race it as a different sort of athlete?
I think I could be the same sort of athlete, but I think in Tokyo I was only going into that race basically with one way I believe the race would go. Like I thought it would come together, and I thought it would be a runner's race, and I thought that I had to run faster than Hayden and Alex to take the win. While in Paris, I think you have more guys who is keen to make it aggressive. The bike is probably going to be much more crucial with the cobbles, and the fact that it's going to suck out a lot of energy from everyone, and you'll probably have more fatigue coming onto the run in Paris than what people had in Tokyo. And also the swim with the French team probably going to do more team tactics there. So I think in Paris there will be different ways to attack the race tactically. But in Tokyo, I was more 100% confident they will sort of come together and it will be a runner's race.
Does that mean you're a little less confident about exactly how the race is going? Like, are you, like what you just said, I think makes a lot of sense. Are you confident in that, or are you still not quite sure?
I haven't been in Paris and seen the course yet, but I know Olav have been there and checking the surface. And so from the videos I've seen of the course, I think it can suit me quite well. But of course, it doesn't help coming 50 seconds behind out of the water, and like then I'm making the job difficult for myself. But if I'm in the same shape or go to Tokyo, I think I can do quite a lot of damage in Paris.
It must have been quite a nice ego refresher for you, though, doing the Ironman race and coming out in that front pack compared to short, because we are a little bit back. Is it nice being like, I could get used to this, or what
No,
was...
no. It's not. It's more the opposite, I would say, because I haven't swum great in long course either. Like I've been further back and swimming next to guys that I thought would be like 2 minutes behind me, and I'm still like in Kona, I think it was like 200 meters in, and I still saw Cam Worth next to me. I'm like, that can't be Cam. That's like, but then I managed to sort of jump across and get into the first pack. But yeah, definitely the swim is something we will have to put more energy and intensity into, and also maybe sacrificing a little bit of the bike power, because like now I think I'm pretty strong on the bike, maybe stronger than I need to be, and I can sort of cut off some hours from the training there and also put it more into the pool and try to lift up the swimming, my swim level again.
So no one's ever won an Olympic gold, gone long, and then ducked back again and had success at the shorter distance. If it doesn't work for you in some way, whatever the formulation for working is, whether it's you don't get the success at the short, you don't get the success at the long, you get success on one or the other, will you feel like you wasted a period of time trying?
No, definitely not. I would rather say, like if I didn't go long, then it would have been 2 World Championship titles shorter, and also the whole sub-7 experience shorter. Like the last 2 years has been fantastic in terms of what we have done, and we've sort of been living on the sort of on the surf of been surfing on the wave, and it's been fantastic. And I think one of the reasons why people haven't had success going from short to long to short again is also because the timing they've done it. They maybe done it at their end of the career, when maybe their performance is sort of already dripping down. Well, I think went over maybe at my prime age, middle 28, by the end of the 20s, and also coming back again when I'm young enough. So if I did it in 8 years' time, it would be a different story.
Oh, mate, let's not pretend like you're not going to. You're probably going to go along for 8 years and go, hell, Dash, let's try again. Let's aim for Brisbane. Let's see what can happen. I mean, I want to talk a little bit about Kona, not heaps, because I was there. I saw you after the race, and I've known you for a while, and we had a brief chat in the finish area, and to me, it's the closest I've seen to you being, not that you were angry, but you were not happy. You really, you could tell you weren't, you were very unhappy with the results. And, you know, you train a lot with Gustav. He won a world title last year. You won a world title last year. How many times has he used against you the fact that he's got the Kona title and you don't? How many times does that come up?
He can't do it, because then I can always pull up my Olympic gold medal, you know. So so we are sort of careful there and try to say, yeah, we're both happy, and
like a toxic relationship. We're both happy. Yes, we promise.
Yeah, so we try to leave that like outside, and I think it's good to have something to be hungry on. Like he is extremely motivated for winning that Olympic gold medal, and
do you think he can?
Yeah, like based on what I've seen in training earlier, like what he did like in 2018 and 2019, if he can get back into that rhythm, I think he can be dangerous. But he also had to sort of crack that code again. I think he's been struggling to understand what he has to do to get to that point again. But if he can get back into that flow, I think he can be dangerous.
I mean, he's fucking dangerous at the long course. When you say that he's capable of winning an Olympic gold, where do you think you're capable of beating him in Kona?
Yeah, I think so. Like, look
at me like I'm an idiot. I love it.
But there again, it's like I knew that he would be strong. Like the week before when we did the 40K race-based run, and he was there bouncing lighter than ever in front of me. And normally when we run intensity, I'm maybe pulling 90% of the time. But when we got to Kona that last 2 weeks, that was sort of turned around. So I was there drafting on him on the run for 90% of that 40K run. And then I knew that, okay, this is going to be a challenge, but I still tried to play my card right on the run in Kona and also on the bike. Like every time Magnus was stirring, I really was digging deep just to stay in contact with him, with the hope that Gustav would be getting dropped, so I didn't have to run against him. But then when we got onto the run, and I just felt like my legs wasn't as like responding as nicely as I did in St. George 6 months earlier. And then I knew that this is going to be a long way home. But yeah, it was more like a survival, really.
Well, one of the things I'd like to talk a little bit about that is I think a lot of people, probably myself at some point as well, looked at what you had planned before you started last year, going, how the fuck is he going to do this? Like, this is a big year. Do you think that maybe, like, what was the thing that maybe meant the legs weren't quite there on? Was it the fact that you'd done so many big races in the lead up, or was it just not getting the training quite right? Like, what do you think was the actual cause for that? I guess that little tiny misfire.
I'm not sure really. Like, yeah, I'm not sure really. Like, I was close enough. If you look, it's like 8 hours and 40 minutes or so. No, 7 hours and 40 minutes of racing, almost 8 hours and 2 minutes behind by end of the day. It's not like a massive margin. It's just like I'm just maybe a tiny percent weaker across the first 7 hours, making it different in the end. So I think it's also just could have been the timing, and also he's been strong over long distance in the past. So I felt like we were like 50-50 who would take it.
Well, I might follow that up then and say, if you could wind the clock back, and let's forget the experience, but let's say you just wanted to win. I mean, you've won everything else now, so Kona. If you had your time again, would you have still done the St. George race and the sub-7 before, or would you have just gone, no, let's just aim for Kona and see what we can do in Kona?
No, I would have done both because I don't think it was impacting it in a negative way. And also being a part of like the sub-7 project was like a once in a lifetime opportunity that I wouldn't been written off. But yeah, it's a new chance coming next year again, and hopefully this short distance year is going to bring back some leg speed that I can use in Kona again in
well,
24.
We heard you say after you won Tokyo that you were going to go straight and win Kona the same year, and obviously that didn't happen. Not just because of the circumstances, there was no Kona. So next year, mate, history repeats itself. We're going to see attempt number 2.
Yeah, I think we announced it on the podcast in 2020. Me and Gustav.
I remember
that was the whole plan, and
we're basically your media department now.
and people,
our invoice will be in the post, mate.
Yeah,
people were just laughing and say, "Oh, who's this cocky bastards? It's not going to happen." And I think people are maybe believing a little bit more that we will go over to Kona next year again.
I think they are. I think you've certainly had people maybe pay a bit more attention to what you guys say and do. Now, I don't want to go completely away from, but you told me a story last year that I didn't know, and just because we were talking about your gold medal, you were telling me what you've done with your gold medal. I think this is such a cool story. So, would you like to share with everybody where your gold medal currently resides?
Yes. So, at home in Bergen, we have a great 50-meter pool, ADO arena, and in there we have like a wall of fame. It's called. On one side is picture of everyone who's been training in the pool who's qualified for Olympics, and on the other side we have like this wall of trophies that both me and Gustav has won. So in that on that wall, I have my Olympic medal, the tri-suit that was the white tri-suit from Trintex, and my World Championship title from 21. And next to that, Gustav has his World Championship title from St. George and his Taiwanese hat, his finisher tape from one of his races. So that's pretty cool. Like every time we are walking past, going into the pool, we see sort of what we have achieved in the past, and hopefully it can inspire.
So does everyone else. Inspiring the next generation.
Inspire the next generation to believe that it's actually possible to, from a small town to become best in the world.
I think I asked you this last time you told me, and I'll ask it again. Does that mean you don't have to pay entries to the pool? Because I know how expensive the pools are in Norway. So do you just get free entry for life as long as your medal's there?
Yeah, I'm not sure for life, but normally we have a wristband that we just get in and can train.
So you had you raced in Ibiza earlier this year. Did you enjoy that race experience? And do you think there was anything you could have done differently on the day to get one step above on the podium?
First, it was a great race. Really enjoyed, especially the run course, and also racing with the race ranger system. That was a cool experience as well, to really have like an accurate way of measuring the distance to the guy in front, and also racing against Jan and Alistair and the best guys in the world. But again, I feel I came into the month of May with not enough race pace, even for a 100K race. I felt I was sort of coming in with a huge engine and very, very strong capacity, but I hadn't done enough intensity even for that distance. So like mistakes wise, I could maybe have been more on the alert when Magnus was bridging up between. So first I was saying with Magnus when we bridge up to the first pack that we lost like a minute and 20 seconds to maybe out of the swim. And then after 40K, we bridge up to them, and then that pack was separated, and I didn't jump across again. And that could maybe have cost me because I lost like a minute to Max Newman there from the second half of the bike. But again, that would have cost me more to go across.
Was that a decision in the moment or a physical? Did you decide not to jump across, or was it just I can't go with that right now?
I didn't try. So it could have been that I couldn't have done it, but I was more sitting back and thinking that the guys in front will close the gap. And I was sort of thinking that the intensity in Edmonton last year was so high and a lot of people was cramping up. And I thought that a lot of the guys up front would be struggling, like a lot of the guys did. But Max was just running super strong after that ride. So yeah, maybe I could have bridged up, but I don't know.
The big thing about Ibiza was obviously having you race Jan for the first. This is the race that everybody has talked about and wanted. I think I've been obsessed with seeing you guys race each other, and we finally saw it. You finally got the opportunity. How did Jan live up? Did he live up to the hype? Was it the experience you expected? Were you left to wanting? Like, what was your thoughts about racing Jan Frodeno?
I was impressed. I would say, like, he smashed me in the water. He was like 80 seconds or so ahead of me, and he stayed with the guys on the bike for most of the part. But like to be fair, like the distance should suit me more than it should be suiting him. Like he's probably dialing more into one gear on that's for Ironman and to win Nice, while when it's shorter, I should have on the run, I should have the leg speed to go faster than him over 18K. So out of me, Ali, and Jan, I would say Jan was the one who performed better than what I was expecting.
So do you have conversations
Nice is the
after the race?
Big one.
Yeah, I guess for him, like
you go, James.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say Nice is the big one for him this year. Do you think would you like to see him race one more Kona to go up against him in the island next year?
Of course. Like I think Kona is really a course where he's been performing to his best, and but yeah, it depends on his motivation, and also for every year he's getting 1 year older, and I can understand that it's tougher to both motivation wise and also to keep it going. He has other commitments too. But yeah, for myself, I'm super motivated for Kona next year and also even Nice in 25. So I think it's a cool thing that they are switching it up.
One of the things that I guess there's been a lot of talk about, because you said it before, when you and Gustav came out and said you're going to do these things, people didn't believe you, and now you have delivered on everything you both have said. There's been a lot of, I guess, interest in the approach that you and Gustav take to training. I don't think I've ever heard the Norwegian method used more than in the last few months, and it's interesting to see things recently almost go the other way a little bit, where we saw Max at the end of the race say no bullshit science, and we've seen Lionel sort of change his approach. What do you like when you see that? What does that make you think? Do you think it is that they just don't understand what you guys are doing, or like does it motivate you? What do you think when you see people sort of making that? Because it's clearly directed at you, right?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. Like I think take Lionel as an example. I think they understand that they don't have enough knowledge to copy it straight away, and it doesn't work to just copy 10%. And I think that's also one of the reasons why, if you don't know it 100%, then it's better to do something you know and understand. And what I think also people don't really understand is that even though we do a lot of testing, it's a little bit the same as with Max. Like it is 90, like it's by the end of the day, it's tons of hard work. That's like the foundation, and then we just try to twist it around and do it a little bit more clever at every part of it.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things I've always admired about the athletes who are, momentum builds and that is they get this unbeatable aura about them. A lot of people would assume that, Kristian's racing, there's no point in me even, showing up because they're not going to be able to beat him. Where I feel like what's happened recently with you guys is it's gone so far beyond that, where that's why we've seen so many people that not only are they worried about you racing, that they're convinced that they need to try to train the same way you guys do. And as you said, they don't really understand how to do it. So what we have actually seen, I think you guys have played this brilliant masterstroke where you've convinced everybody that they need to do things the way you do. They don't know how to do it properly. And what's actually happened is they've gone backwards. They've actually lost their. So you guys are so good. You've actually convinced your competitors to become worse athletes. This is the ultimate triathlon mind game, I think.
But if you take 20 athletes, then probably one of them will understand and do it correctly. So then it's probably not going to work for most of the athletes if you just copy and try to do the same. But there will always be someone who is able to learn it and implement it into their training. So I guess it's a part. It's a part of like lifting the sport higher as well and making the level increase.
So in terms of approaches to training, it's been a strange year with obviously with Colin Charter and his positive EPO test. There was a lot of noise when that happened, a lot of kerfuffle around the sport, a lot of talking. Do you think that noise went away too quickly?
I don't know really. Depends if they're working around, if the case is completely finished or not. So I don't know.
Do you think the sport is currently doing enough sort of introspective looking to really understand if there's a bigger issue within the sport or not?
Depends. Like I feel like the races we're doing, like they are really doing testing to try to keep the field as clean as possible, and also the talk among the athletes. Like when we were in Ibiza, which was the first race after the case, and you feel like I feel that I'm racing against a clean field, and it's more like, people do sort of talk about the rumors and everything, but I guess it's not something you just forget completely. It's probably still something people are talking about, like when they are like meeting up and
What do you mean? I feel like that it's been, there's been a few things that have come up this year in the sport that have been not great. I mean, as an outsider, my perspective is probably different, but as a person inside of the sport who lives it every day, to the extreme that, I know that you do. How are you feeling about the sport at the moment? Are you feeling optimistic? Do you think that we're in a kind of weird spot? Like, what's your take on the situation at the moment? And not just about the Colin thing, but we saw what happened in Hamburg recently. There's just been a few bad things happen. So how do you see the state of the sport at the moment?
I feel it's moving. Like one of the reasons why I guess with all the motorbikes in Hamburg is maybe because of the interest, and they try to create extra value, trying to create more broadcast, and that's a part of a learning experience, both from the organization and also from the athletes. And also feel that the way now, especially PTO, is trying to bring the sport, that it's potentially a very exciting future ahead in terms of where triathlon can stand in 5 to 10 years time. But it can also turn around quite quickly and sort of ease off instead.
We heard Gustav do an interview recently with Super League where he was talking about if he wanted to take the easy path, he would just go back to long course and win 15 world titles. Do you see it that way? Do you see long course as the easy option? Do you think that you could, I mean, I'm sure you could, but do you see it as like, I know I can go and do that. I've got time. Like, how do you, how do you view that long distance racing at the moment?
I feel it's increasing. Like the level is getting higher and higher, and especially with the middle distance, like it's more competitive now than what it was 10 years ago, I would say. And especially, it's not just the World Championships where the best is racing against each other, but you have this top field in the PTO Tour, and I feel and with that, the level is increasing, and it making it more difficult to win. But I can definitely understand that in an Ironman, it's more just how strong you are, how your position is, and you can almost look at your own numbers 1 week out, and you can either say that you're going to win the race or not, like just based on your numbers. But you can't do that in short course because it's so you're so like you're really racing against each other athletes who is can impact your race so much more than in long course.
Do you think we're going to, talking about your competitors and other athletes that can impact your race on the long course, do you think we're going to see Alistair Brownlee make it to Nice? He seems to be chopping and changing his plans at the moment.
It seems like they are struggling both staying free and also the how to build up the capacity well enough to deal with a race that's that long. So I guess he will not be there.
Interesting. I mean, one of the things we've seen with you, and I know we're sort of flip-flopping around a little bit, but a lot of athletes, one of the factors why we don't see people have the ability to shift and go back and forward is, I mean, look at Ali, for example, very, very, a lot of injuries throughout his career. And I know you've had maybe some problems, but you've been relatively uninjured so far. Why do you think, what is the difference between you, somebody who is able to literally perform at every single level of the sport and remain injury-free? Like why do you think, what do you do different?
If I could have your secret, I'd really appreciate it right now, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's complex and put to like a lot of different reasons. Like I did a lot of volume from a young age, so I've sort of been training up to be able to deal with a lot of training load, and also I've always been fueling well. So it's not like I'm balancing there on a very, very thin edge in terms of getting injured or not. Getting a stress fracture is often happening when you're trying to lose weight and really struggling with your nutrition. Well, I think we've had we've always been like fueling properly, and I also think that the way we are building up our sessions, we're not just going to the track and smashing 5 to 6, 7K like the Brits are doing. I think that's increasing your risk of getting injured way more than going to the track and doing 10, 12, 14K at a little bit slower pace or control pace.
It's exactly why I'm injured at the moment. All that smashing at the track that I've been doing, you see.
Mate. Yeah, and if you do those 5 to 8Ks at 2:45 pace, I think that's for a lot of athletes.
That's exactly the problem I've had. All that 2:45 pace that I put out.
Yeah, and I think that's and I feel a lot of the Brits, for example, is struggling with the lower leg or like Achilles muscles more than anything else.
So looking ahead, what are you looking forward to most this year? What's you said it hasn't been the best entry to the year. What would be the best exit from this point onwards? Because we're soon to get to the second half of the year.
Keep being ranked number 1 on the PTO ranking, and having won Paris and Pontevedra, then I think I should be pretty satisfied with this year. But also I feel the 2023 season is not something you summer up this year. That's something you summer up next year, depending on how the Olympics is going. So it's a pre-Olympic year, and I try to treat it as a pre-Olympic year.
Pre-Olympic year. Such a pre-Olympic year. I love it.
I know that we discussed this earlier. I think it might have even been end of last year, but you were telling me about your plans for this year and your madness at doing the test event, the PTO Singapore race, and then 70.3 Worlds. And I know it's been since confirmed. Is that still the plan? And are you a madman who just likes to suffer and make your life miserable? Because the racing is one thing, but the travel must be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, it's still a plan, and I just hope I can do a proper heat prep before Paris, because we are arriving in Singapore like Saturday evening and racing on the Sunday. So to not be prepared for the heat can be the biggest mistake. So I think it should be fine as long as I'm getting a good night of sleep. So a lot of people they do race like Olympic distance and then they do like a mixed relay the day after. So I'm just doing the same, but I'm just racing a little bit longer.
Around the world. Just jumping in a plane, traveling to Singapore. I think I was just like, God, you love triathlon because like you wouldn't get like, it's just, yeah, nuts. I love it. I absolutely love it. But still, I just like, Jesus, that's a lot. You got the 70.3 world title last year. We saw you go there after Kona. To me, the race was I actually think that performance you put together, especially on the bike, was one of the most impressive things I saw you do in a long time. Where does that rank in your list of achievements last year? Because you have achieved so much, like that 70.3 performance, where do you rank it?
I feel my bike power was pretty good. So I enjoyed pushing the pace there I think I was pulling that group for like 60 or 65K. But I felt like my running legs wasn't too good either. And I felt my swim was not good either. So I wouldn't say it's my best performance last year. I think both maybe St. George full distance and Hawaii was a better performance. One of the reasons why I won was because Gustav wasn't at his fullest fitness in the half. And I got a little bit of help of the condition, I guess. It was super cold and that helped me quite a lot. Like everyone was stopping in transition to put on gloves and jackets while I was coming from I would say a poor swim, and suddenly I was like fourth or third out of the transition, and then I could push the pace from the front purely based on that.
It's going to be an exciting year watching this one unfold, mate, as we lead into Paris. I'm very much looking forward to it. We're both going to be in Paris, so you'll have to send us each one of those It Hurts More to Lose t-shirts so we can stand there and support you from the sidelines. Team Kristian.
Yeah, I will do a phone call to Trentax, see if we can sort out some. What's your size? S and S?
Yeah, medium, generous medium.
Okay, medium and.
I think I'm a small. It depends on the brand, small or medium, either one. So.
Yeah.
Okay. I will sort it out.
I know a guy who knows a guy.
Good man.
Kristian, a pleasure as always, mate. I know that most people in the world follow you closely, so there's not much point. But if people want to check out your socials, where do they go?
They go to Instagram, Kristian Blue, Twitter, Kristian Blue, YouTube. I haven't posted much.
I was about to say, don't be plugging the YouTube channel, mate. That thing doesn't exist anymore.
But now we can head into Santara Tech. There we have a new video of the second part of the Norwegian method, how the winter has been poor, but we're still hungry.
I can't it's like you guys are in every second piece of triathlon content at the moment. Is Kristian and Gustav. It's like, oh, it's Kristian again. I can't get away. Oh, it's Kristian again. I can't get away. It's I love it, but there's lots of it. It's good. Make hay while the sun is shining.
Yep, it's good.
Well, mate, as always, a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us again, and we'll be in touch. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
And we are back. I always love talking with Kristian. And again, it's funny how, as always, it seems to be the way. So again, we know Kristian really well. We've known Kristian for a long time. Like, I still swear he told better stories as soon as we stopped recording. He busts out.
The same with every interview I've ever done. People are super relaxed before you press record, and there's all this gold coming out of them. You press record, they formalize up, and then you stop and they relax again, and all this. Oh, I think this and I think that. Oh, for fuck's sake! Well, put it in the middle.
It was a few weeks ago where I had Joe on. I think we were talking about Hamburg, and like again, I talk to Joe every week. So like I think I had a phone call with Joe the other day. It was 2 hours on the phone, me and Joe talking, and it's just the loosest shit. Like where, we speak the way we speak. So we do this interview, and he was so like proper, and it caught me off guard a little bit. I was like, what the fuck is happening? This isn't the Joe that I'm used to. But you're right. Like the Kristian, again, we've known Kristian for a long time. We're huge fans of his. It was always good to catch up with him. And I was surprised how long it had been since we actually had him on the podcast. And interesting because, things aren't going, I guess, the way that probably all of us would expect for the Norwegians at the moment. Like things are, we're so used to these guys doing things a certain way, and it hasn't gone that way. You know, we've seen Gustav. I mean, it's worth noting Gustav has obviously gone through the horrible tragedy of losing his mother. But even before that happened, and like the results just aren't what we're used to seeing. And even for Kristian, he's sort of up there, but he's not winning the way he is. I mean, I wanted to ask you this, but like
he'll be back. He'll be back.
What do you think about that? Like, you know, looking at things, because again, Montreal's happened since then. Like, you know, we've seen, in fact, there's actually other Norwegian athletes now. Like Vettel Thorn, I think, is actually looking pretty dangerous. I haven't checked the point system, but he might have a better chance of qualifying than Gustav. Like, for me, Gustav even being selected isn't a certainty at the moment. So how do you see things shaping out for the Norwegians?
Yeah, no, agreed. Look, but I don't think we can go too far down the rabbit hole of judging them on the form that they're currently putting out, you know, for time going forward, because we've got Paris next year. This is a pre-Olympic year, you know, to bang that drum a little bit. I think there will be a long-term plan, and that long-term plan won't involve firing every single race at the moment. It'll involve racing in a certain way to gather data, to find out where you are, to put a plan in place so that when you reach Paris, you're at the best of your ability. Now, look, Gustav, we've discussed, you know my opinion on Gustav, that I wish he wasn't trying to go to the Olympics in Paris. I mean, I'd love it if he gets there and proves me wrong and wins a gold or wins a medal, because, you know, who am I? But I wish he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, I see it as a wasted period of time, because I don't think he will get a medal in Paris. But again, who am I to doubt Gustav Iden?
Yeah. Even when you were talking, it reminded me back to pre-Tokyo. And I mean, what I keep saying Tokyo 2020, but 2021, because do you remember? I think I even said, I think Kristian peaked too early, because he sort of had that, you know, he went really well. And then it was that race. God, what race was it? He did a race and he was just like nowhere near. And there was like maybe 2 events or something where like, oh, Kristian's burnt, like he's gone too hard too early and he's not being it. And he fucking didn't. He absolutely nailed the timing. And that's why I look at this and I'm not particularly worried about Kristian. I have to admit, and I love the purity of it, and I love what Gustav is trying to achieve, and I hope he does. But part of me is going, yeah, it's not looking great. But I still I love that it's, you know, these people who are so good and they are at the top of the sport and they're going, fuck it. Like, you know what, we're young, we got plenty of time to sort of. The only thing I wanted to quickly ask you, because again, we don't want to go into too much, is do you think that they've done such an exceptional job, I think, of building this brand around them? We've heard fucking every second thing is about the Norwegian method, the most advanced, do you think that they're damaging that reputation a little bit with what we're doing? Because we are, and again, let's not be Tim and James, who are frothers for triathlon. Let's actually be the regular age grouper who's more interested in what they can do to improve their, you know, swim, bike, run. Do you think that they're looking or seeing the Norwegians not getting the results that we're used to, or not dominating the way we used to, and starting to go, okay, maybe they're not that good anymore? Like, do you think that they are damaging that reputation a bit with this?
I mean, maybe in certain quarters, but anyone with an objective eye on the sport, anybody with an objective eye at anything, will realize that no athlete can be firing 100% all of the time. It doesn't matter whether you're the top of pro cycling, the top of triathlon, you can't maintain a constant win rate. This period of time, in some people, they may think, oh, they've gone off the boil a little bit. It'll be eclipsed, and it won't matter if they take that gold in Paris.
Yeah,
you know, because ultimately that will bear out to be the thing that says, yeah, well, no matter what they did in the middle there, the method still worked, and they still got that silverware in when it mattered.
Well, it is funny, isn't it? When you look back, like, history is funny because you always look at the highs. Like, we're very quick to sort of forget the lows. Like when when people write the history, like we always talk about, you know, the 89 Iron War, or, you know, these particular performances, but we don't focus so much on the down points. So I think that this will be a footnote in the history of what those two boys are able to do in the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And whatever happens in Paris, you know, there is much more success in their future to come.
Exactly. Well, look, mate, we have, as we sort of said at the start, this is a relaunched version of what was the MX Endurance podcast as Talking Triathlon. We talked about this weeks ago, but we said that, you know, we are doing this ourselves now. Not that, again, it's nothing untoward, but this is a independent podcast, I guess you'd call it. And that's why there's a few things that have changed this year. One of them being, or this moving forward, is we have launched a Patreon. We have literally set it up And I thought it might be a good idea to talk about why we're doing that, because I don't just want it to think that it's like, oh, we're just doing this for the sake of it. But I don't know. Do you want to take the lead on this, or I can give a bit of reason as to why we wanted to do it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to start. I mean, the Patreon is going to be for anyone who wants to support the podcast first, to help us keep doing what we're doing, because we believe in this mission to bring a deeper level of understanding to the professional side of the sport and really activate that audience. And then secondly, you as a Patreon member, you'll get access to the group that we're going to set up on a social media channel. That'll probably be your bag there, Tim, being that you're the social media man. You'll know how it works.
Yep.
And then we'll give a bonus episode each month where, I mean, because both of us are deeply involved in the sport. We talk constantly about the sport. We are talking to brands, we're talking to partners, we are talking to athletes. So there's a lot that we know and a lot that we don't sometimes say on the main podcast, that we will go into a bit more detail, the sort of inner workings, the seedy underbelly of the sport a bit more. And it'll be fun.
Well, we were talking about the start about how you hear the good stuff before and after you hit record. And like the reality is, and this is true, we talk a lot either side of the actual episode about the stuff that, like, can we talk about this on the podcast? Can we not? This, I think we're going to probably talk a lot more about that stuff behind the paywall a bit more. Obviously no snitches. What stays behind the paywall has to stay behind the paywall. Otherwise we're not going to do it. But we genuinely also want to make the bonus what you guys want, because look, we don't particularly want to be another show that does stuff about coaching and about training. And I don't want to do that particularly, but we can. But we also thought that, we want your voices to be heard. If you want to, contribute, if you want to send in questions, if you want to send in topic, whatever it is, like, we want to shape the bonus thing to whatever you want it to be. Because it is, like we sort of said, the main purpose of the Patreon is going to be, because there are real costs doing the podcast. We have to pay for, we got a video editor who's going to do this for YouTube, and there'll be some reels that come out on socials. We have to pay for the hosting, the equipment, all this sort of stuff. So first and foremost, it's about helping us keep doing it. But then, we want to make sure that it's something that you guys want, and something, we are no longer the MX Endurance podcast, which means that while I'm sure lots of our members, or those members, will still listen, it's not about that community anymore. It is about the broader triathlon community. And we want to shape what we do with this podcast around what you guys want. So that's the
absolutely
idea.
And we'll put a facility in place where you can send in voice notes and questions, and anything that we think is particularly salient, interesting, we'll play those on the show, and we'll answer your questions, and that'll all be on the bonus episode, month in, month out. And it'll be a real insight into the behind the scenes working of what we do, outside of reporting on the professional side. We'll be talking to brands, we'll be talking to partners, we'll have people on who are, as opposed to the pro interviews that we'll do in the weekly show, we'll have like the engine room interviews. Who keeps the sport going, and how's it going? What is it like on the ground? What's that landscape like?
And also stuff like we'll probably set up some sort of through the group where we can live chat during races, because that's always been one of my favorite things to do. Is like, whenever we've had like a PTO race or a Roth or something like that, where you've got the WhatsApp group going. So we'll probably set something like that as well, so we can like live chat through races, because that's always a lot of fun. But yeah, that's it, guys. What we are done for the first version of the new version of the old podcast. I don't know, we're going to call it episode 1. It is. We've restarted the numbering. So this is like in comics where they reboot the world, and it's back to episode 1 so they can sell more comics. This is episode 1 of Talking Triathlon. Jimbo, if people want to find out more about Talking Triathlon, what do they need to do?
If it's a comic book reset, can I have my hair back? Can I get hair on this journey?
I can probably get our editor to do something. I'm sure there's an AI thing for that now. There's probably an AI hair filter or something. I mean, I don't have to see. I've got a luscious head of hair, mate. You question my baldness, and I've out of spite grown it just to make you look extra bald.
Well, thanks for listening to Talking Triathlon, the first Talking Triathlon. If you want to support the show, jump on to patreon.com/Talking Triathlon. That's /. If you want to follow Tim, he's at tford14 on Insta, and I'm at bale.james85 on Insta. Find us across all social networks, at Talking Triathlon on Instagram and at Talk Triathlon on Twitter. If you want to join the Patreon group, you will get access to monthly bonus episodes and the social group, and we will very much look forward to talking to you next week and seeing you all in that private group as it swells in numbers.
Correct. And we'll also be talking next week we'll probably be talking about Roth. We'll be talking about the fact that the Collins Cup has been cancelled. There's plenty of results. I want to talk about the women's race in Frankfurt that happened recently. Oh, what else? There's actually been so
Roth
much
is a big
stuff.
one. There's a lot to say about Roth, and I had a cheeky chat with the former fastest women's Roth competitor and got her opinion on it. So that'd be an interesting one to drop in a week or so.
Perfect. Well, Jimbo, thank you very much. It's been good to reconnect and talk triathlon with you. We'll be back next week. Till then, see you later.
Cheerio.